this is Jason Robinson from Illustration by Design, and this is my review of Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb, the new independent comic and one of the newer offerings from the Comicscape movement by writer and artist Kyung Lee. Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb is, I guess overall, a very good comic. It's beautifully drawn and very kind of, I guess, dense in the sense that there's a lot of content in it. Has a lot of action, has a fair amount of story, and a lot of backstory behind it. Once you actually get into the storyline and reading about the characters and everything. Basically, it's about a girl named I guess her name is Saya, and she gets involved through her uncle with some secret organization that wants to create superhumans, and through a series of events, she ends up being the subject of one of the experiments and gains superpowers from it. It's I'm trying to think of the best way to sort of review this. I don't want to spoil anything, but there might be some minor spoilers in this review. I guess I'll review it in 3 different sections: the story, the art, and the quality of the actual product, the comic book itself. The art, like I said, is really, really good. Kyung Lee has a great handle on doing sort of American manga style artwork. I mean, you can tell he's gotten down the cartoony sort of chibi style, along with the more realistic, actiony manga style. I think I said in my unboxing a while back that his style is very reminiscent to me of Adam Warren, who used to do the Dirty Pair comic book back in the 80s and 90s. Another American-made sort of manga comic book, and also the Dunn brothers, who did what was it? It was Ninja High School back in the 80s and 90s. But Kyung Lee is, I mean, it's just, if you look at this artwork, it's just very clean, very dynamic, very just cool stuff. I mean, he does a really good job with a lot of the tropes, a lot of the, I mean, everything, including the backgrounds. If you can see that, I mean, the background patterns that you find in a lot of manga. I mean, he has that stuff down pat. I think he did all this, I believe, digitally. So a lot of these patterns are probably from the whatever program he's using. He might be using not Photoshop, but there's another one. I can't remember the name of it, but whatever he's using, he makes great use of the artwork, the programs, whatever he's using. I mean, he's got the artwork down pat. It's just really beautiful work. So yeah, I was just very impressed just reading it. I mean, he makes great use of full page artwork, spreads. He's a great artist. So the artwork, to my mind, is very good. The writing is also good in this book. I was really impressed with that as well. I don't know if Kyung Lee's worked on any other books before, but for someone who I've really never heard of before this campaign, I was impressed by his writing. It's a little verbose. I mean, he doesn't skimp on the writing. It's obvious reading this book that he has some sort of plan slash he's created a history for these characters. These characters are not one-dimensional, sort of, just thought of sort of at the drop of a hat. He has a background for not only the main character Saya, but he has background for her cousin, and what Saya's interested in, what her cousin's involved with, who her relatives are, how they're interconnected with each other. I mean, even sort of the side characters, like this sort of stereotypical pretty boy. He has a backstory and he's connected to other characters. I mean, it's obvious reading this book that Kyung Lee's put a lot of thought into it, and he sort of goes into that in the background of how he came up with the character and everything. I mean, it goes back all the way back to, I guess, 2004, and Kyung Lee's been sort of planning this, or at least thinking about it, for the past 15 years. So there's a lot of depth to these characters in a sense that Kyung Lee has an idea in his head of where these characters come from, where he wants them to go, and his plans for them in the future. And that's cool. I mean, he even references it in these sort of ads on the back of the book, where I guess this is Battle Maiden Knucklebomb's cousin and her adventures as a female wrestler. So it's just really cool. And it's kind of refreshing to see that. I mean, a lot of comic books, I'll read them, and it's kind of obvious that the characters are pretty shallow. Don't have that. There wasn't a lot of thought put into their creation. They're just sort of there for looks or whatever. But Battle Maiden Knucklebomb seems to have a fair amount of depth to her creation, and I like that. Like I said, the writing is. I mean, he puts a lot of text in here. I mean, the characters. It's not a Rob Liefeld book where the characters are just posing, full page poses, and then with minimal text. These characters talk quite a bit, and I like that as well. I mean, I had to read this I think twice to sort of get everything inside the story, and yeah, I enjoy that. I'm glad that it sort of required me to take a second look to sort of figure out what was going on. So the writing again was pretty cool. The book itself, I thought, was really put together well also as a thick sort of cardstock cover. The pages themselves are I don't know what pound weight they are, but they're I mean it's a solid book. I mean you hold it in your hands and it's hefty and it's thick. It's thick as the main character's thighs. But but no, it's a solid, physically solid book. It's not a book that will easily be damaged or I mean it's a floppy, but it's not that floppy. It's a solid, good book. So it feels good in your hands. I love turning the pages on it. It looks really good. So I think that overall, I would probably give this an A in terms of quality. This is one of the better independent comics I've read over the past year, and I've gotten a fair number of comics, especially through Comicsgate over the past year. This is one of the better ones, honestly. This one and what's the other one that I reviewed a while back? It was T Bird and Throttle. Those two books have been the most satisfying for me. I mean, I'm into superhero type stuff, so they naturally appeal to me to begin with. Bigfoot Bill was also a very good book. That was a sort of a little different genre than I'm inclined to go for. But those three books were probably the overall. I'm talking about in terms of story, art, and the actual sort of packaging of the book itself have been the most. I feel have given me the most bang for my buck. And these books cost $25 each, so they're not cheap books. So when they cost that much, especially, I'm kind of picky about what I get in return for my dollar. And Kyung Lee seems to have delivered. I I do have a few qualms, or maybe just one, maybe a couple with the book, and they're minor. I guess the main thing is the flow of the story. And just so you know, this book seems to be broken up into it's basically two comic books in one. There's like a part one, then there's a part two. The main problem I have is mainly with part one. The flow of the readability, the way you read the story is kind of clunky sometimes. I noticed this in the second page, especially. Starting in the second page, you have this character, this soldier character, sort of shooting to the left, and then you have to read to the right, and then she's dodging something from the left, and I assume it's his bullet, but it took me a while or at least a few seconds to figure that out because it doesn't flow naturally from left to right. I mean, if he had flipped this panel so that this soldier's shooting to the left, and then flip this panel so that the bullet's coming from the left, so you can sort of naturally see that the firing of the bullet is connected to this guy shooting the gun, it would have been easier for me. There are a number of times when I had to I'd be reading it and then I had to stop then reread it again to try to understand what was going on, because the flow of the panels didn't match what I guess I was instinctively expecting from what I was seeing and reading. And I think that that's something that Kyung Lee probably was learning as he was going along, because I saw far less of that in chapter 2 of this book. I mean, later on in the book, I mean, the flow is much, much better. Another problem that I also found, and it's related to that, is his dialogue boxes, his word balloons. A lot of times, and again, this is mainly in part 1, the word balloons did not tell you who was speaking. It wasn't clear at all. It was kind of a chore trying to figure it out. Like this panel here. I mean, you start reading it. It says, "You okay?" And then you start reading it. It looks like Sai is saying it, but it's not her. It's this guy here. But how would you know that he's the one saying? It was really confusing to me. I had to read this panel probably three times to figure out that, okay, this guy's talking, but there's no way for the reader to understand that. I think Kyung Lee should have put this word balloon up here, and then connected it with a tail to this word balloon. So it's much easier for the reader to follow what's going on. And this happened several times, and it kind of got annoying after a while. It's just, again, a readability factor that makes it harder for the consumer to understand what's going on. And I got confused a fair number of times. Another thing here, and a lot of times Kyung Lee will have like little character heads to show who's talking and when they're not in the panel, and that's fine. But my eyesight's not the best, and it was really hard for me to see who that person was supposed to be. I mean, if he just made these little heads like a little bigger so that it was obvious who was talking, that would have been a big help. But that was pretty much the only things that I had a problem with this book. I mean, like I said, I mean, it's really well drawn, really well written. The packaging is really, really cool, and really solid. And again, those few readability issues that I had were only really in the first half of this book. In part 2 of the book, I guess from this page onward, most of them were solved, and I was really happy. And it was much easier, much more flow to the story, because he'd improved those issues. So that, I guess, is my overall review of Battle Maiden Knucklebomb. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 9. It was a good book, worth reading again, and a lot of the stuff that's sort of implied in the backstory of the characters makes at least me excited about the future stuff that Kyung Lee has in store for these characters and for sort of the peripheral characters in the story. It's a good read. I hope that you guys had a chance to buy it. I almost did not buy it because I'd never heard of Kyung Lee last year when I first saw it, but I was I was drawn by his artwork. I listened to him on various YouTube channels, and he seemed like a nice guy, and he seemed like he had a clear vision of what he wanted, and he proved it with this book. I mean, it's a very sharp book. So hopefully you guys got it. Hopefully you guys will have a chance to read it and enjoy it for yourself. And I just want to give Kyung Lee props for delivering a great comic book. I mean, this is a pro quality book. A lot of independent books, you look at it and you can tell the person's not quite ready for prime time. Kyung Lee is, and he's proven it with his writing, with his art, and with the way he's packaged his book. It's a professional book, and it deserves all the accolades that I'm sure it will get. And I know that he'll just continue to improve with future issues. And a lot of a few of the qualms that I had, he's already fixed within the second half of the book. So I'm really looking forward to I guess issues 2, 3, and beyond. So if you haven't already, check out Battle Maiden Knucklebomb. If you haven't bought it beforehand, try to find it on eBay. It's worth the buy. So anyway, guys, that's my review of Battle Maiden Knucklebomb, and hope you enjoyed this review. If you haven't already, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and share it out. Let people know about Battle Maiden Knucklebomb, and that it's a really cool comic book and that they should check it out. Okay? You guys take care. I'll talk to you later.